Welcome to Two Hearts Dance and Yoga Heart to Heart series. My name is Leanne Barber, owner and movement creator at Two Hearts Dance and Yoga. It is my pleasure to bring you some rays of sunlight during this time and just being able to sit down with some people who really inspire me. Today we have Amber Lloyd. Yay, Amber! Amber and I went to high schools in the same area together in Southern Maryland. We both danced and cheered for professional teams in the DC and Maryland area. Amber was a cheerleader for the NFL's Baltimore Ravens for 3 seasons. She was also a U.S. Army combat medic, having served 4 years with a 15-month deployment to Iraq. She worked freelance with technical fashion design at Under Armour and was showcased in New York Fashion Week. Amber is a wife and a mom of 3. She is grit and grace, and it is my pleasure to have her here with us today. Thank you, Amber, so much for your time.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So Amber, before we get into things, how are you staying active during this quarantine? I know you're a mom of 3, so I know you're probably running around the house like crazy, but how are you staying active for yourself?
It was especially hard for me because I had my daughter on March 3rd, which was about 2 weeks before quarantine started. Right. So just kind of being a little bit conscious of, like, you know, being patient with myself and my body and working on getting my baby weight down on my body's time. But I do a lot of, I subscribe to a workout membership, so I do a lot of workout videos, and I have a really supportive husband who's able to be with our daughter and our 2 boys while I try to, you know, stay active and stay healthy.
That's wonderful, and congratulations on your new little bundle of joy. That's so exciting, and I'm glad, you know, things are going well for you at home during this time. A bit about, you know, what it was like growing up as Amber, your childhood, and just some of the things that you'd like to share.
As you know, we both grew up in Southern Maryland, so it's a little bit country, a little suburban. So I have 2 brothers, and we spend a lot of time playing in the woods, digging up worms, doing things that I probably now think are icky and won't let my own kids do. But also, though, and I think it's important to say, during my teenage years, I made those bad decisions. I wouldn't say bad decisions, but learning experiences where I needed to learn to become a better person, a kinder person, a considerate person. And I think it's important to say because it plays a big role on molding me into the person I am today. So I was a little bit of everyone, but behind all that, I was always very active. I ran track and also had a dance background off and on all through my childhood.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. What led you to joining the Army?
So I think that's a really simple question. When I was 14, I think I was 14, that's when 9/11 happened. And from 14 till 18, sporadically, through different youth groups, and then also with my family, we would send care packages overseas to Kuwait and Iraq and other places. And every now and then I would get a letter back from a soldier or someone like that. Not even soldiers, sometimes it was civilians who were also overseas. And it was really natural when I turned 18. About 6 months later, I was gone and off to Iraq. But not only that, my dad, he was in the Navy, and neither of my brothers were interested in joining the military, so he was really proud. And I think that played a big role also.
Wonderful. I come from a military family. My father is a retired veteran. My grandfathers were, a lot of my uncles and cousins as well. So it definitely, you know, when your family is kind of involved in the military, it kind of trickles down.
It's tradition. Yeah, it just happens that way.
Absolutely. So, you know, thank you again for your service. And especially, you know, us growing up in Southern Maryland, it's kind of an area where, you know, the military base is there and not many people are from there. Like you said, a lot of people are transplants and are living down there because of the base. So a lot of sense. What would you say that, you know, the military has taught you most about yourself?
I think what it's taught me the most is I need to try everything. You know, some people don't think it's a good thing to be a jack of all trades, but I don't want to be the master of one thing. Like, I want to try different things. I want to find what, you know, I really love and am passionate about doing, but also I also want to experience the things that I really don't like so much. So I think it's taught me to focus, work hard, stay disciplined, and try everything, especially for the people who weren't able to come back from overseas and don't have a life to come back to. And we need to live our lives well for the people who are no longer living.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well put. What would you say, you know, what gets you through the challenging times? What's kind of your outlet?
Oh, I think it's my people, man. I don't think it's not something that I can do on my own. Like, there's nothing specifically that I would go do privately. I think that having my people, and when I say my people, I mean my family, my husband, my parents, my kids, my friendships, the people that I've met along the way, like those relationships, though my circle is pretty small, I have a good group of people. And I don't think that I would be able to overcome anything without them. Yeah.
Wonderful. It takes a village, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it's a small village, but it's a good village.
Exactly. You need to have people, you know, as your support system, people to follow, not just in the hard times, but even like someone to celebrate with when you achieve something.
You need it. You need it. It's so essential. And I think that people often say, like, I don't need friends, and I don't need a lot of people. I don't like people. But I just think that, you know, you need to work harder at finding people like you, or people who compliment you, good people. Because having your people is essential.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So what kind of led you to your journey with Baltimore Ravens? Were you always, you know, kind of aspiring to a professional cheerleader, or what led you to that direction?
No, I wasn't a cheerleader in high school. It's not something that I would necessarily say I dreamt of, but as I said before, like, I've always had, you know, a background of dance and dance in my life. So I just came across it and just, you know, went for it and kept pushing. It's not something that I got right away. Like, I did something called Ravens Playmakers. I'm sure you've probably heard of it, which is kind of more like promotional modeling or promotions for the Ravens. And, you know, it took some time to get to that point, especially, like, I didn't dance in the military. So learning flexibility and just a lot of dance, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So so I didn't want to do it initially. It wasn't something that I dreamt of, but once I had my mind set to accomplish it, I just kept going.
Wonderful. And it was like amazing to see you on the field, just knowing you're from my hometown area.
Same with you on Wizards.
You just have like that bright light, your smile, you just like lit up that arena.
Oh, stop. Ditto.
So I know the NFL does a lot of work with the military and even sends cheerleaders overseas for tours, spirits of soldiers. Since you have been on both ends of this, what is your perspective in those things happening, and what do you find, you know, the moments that you can remember about that where you connected in both perspectives?
Doing a military tour was something I really wanted to do and never got to do, just because I wanted to actually experience being on that side. I've done other tours, but not a military tour. I will say that it's cool to, when I was in the military, it was cool to have entertainment come out. There was never cheerleaders, but we've had dancers, singers, and it was cool to have people come out and perform specifically for you in the middle of nowhere. And I think that on the other end, some of the other higher ranking military personnel, they thought it was a distraction. but we needed that distraction because I was a soldier and I wasn't higher ranking. I wasn't a sergeant. You don't get credit for the things that you do and accomplish. So it's always work, 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 work with no relief. So having entertainment come out was really special. And I really regret not being able to go on a military tour when I was a cheerleader. But I didn't get to make that decision.
Right. I just, I wanted to know, just, a lot of people don't realize that as well, like that the NFL does a lot of those tours. They don't necessarily like televise it or tell, the public about it, but, they are, sending our cheerleaders, working with entertainment to provide for the veterans. So just kind of wanted to know, how you
I
felt.
think that makes it a little more special.
Right.
It's a little secret just for you and nobody else knows, know.
Definitely, definitely. So as I've spoken with you about my business, Two Hearts Dance and Yoga works with many veterans in integrating wellness practices like yoga, mindfulness, and creative movement into their lives as a way of coping and finding community. Are there any practices that help you in particular? And do you have any advice for veterans who are kind of seeking those things?
I think that your classes and yoga is a good opportunity for military personnel to reintegrate their lives in the civilian world. I think it's really hard to mesh those things together. And especially, I don't know about everyone, but for me, the first few years, it was hard to accept the fact that I was back in civilian life and trying to adjust and adapt to all the things that I missed, especially after coming back from Iraq for 15 months. I went straight into being a civilian. So it was hard and it was difficult for me. But I think, being in those classes like your class, or like for me, I took other classes, martial arts and stuff like that, but integrating yourself with good people who are trying to accomplish, the same things and find mindfulness and be at peace is a great way to cope with reintegrating with civilian life. But not only that, I think that it's just good to be open-minded, surround yourself with people and hope for the best and assume that they have the best intentions for you. But, surrounding yourself with different people is just key.
Absolutely. And thank you. It's just interesting to learn, what kind of different routines people have for themselves coming out of maybe a deployment or coming out of a training or, really trying to reintegrate themselves into the regular world. So thank you for that advice. And those who are listening can take those little tidbits and use them.
Yeah.
Lastly, just to ask you, is there anything that you would tell anyone, whether they're a dancer, a student, a young kid, looking to achieve their dreams? What would you say to somebody who's looking to chase their
I would say be ready to put in the work. I think that everything that people accomplish, especially with social media being such a big thing, it always looks like it came so easily and effortlessly, but it actually takes a lot of work and you have to put a lot of work behind it. But also be aware of where you need improvements, but be kind to yourself in the process. I think that our community is doing a really good job just in the world in general at being kind to others, and we forget to be kind to ourselves behind closed doors. So nothing is worth accomplishing if you lose yourself in the process. So be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. That's great words of advice. And again, we thank you on behalf of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga for everything that you're doing, just shedding the light, inspiring us. Can you tell people where they can learn more about you or maybe follow you as well?
Well, if you want to follow me, I don't have a lot on dance anymore, but you can follow my fashion page on Instagram. It's Amber_Bautista. on Instagram.
Awesome. So you just mentioned a little bit about your fashion, and I know I touched a little bit on it at the very beginning in the intro here. But tell us a little bit about, what that is, what you're doing.
Well, so after I got out of the military, I went to school for fashion at Stevenson University. And then I started working freelance before I even graduated at Under Armour. And I worked with technical fashion design. And it's kind of hard to explain, but basically, someone designed something on paper, they draw the sketch, and then what we would do was put together the pattern and the package that goes to China and how they're going to produce the garment. So we're kind of the middleman between production and sketch, or sketch and production. And I've left since, and I do still do some freelance work, but just openly, so that I can work with many companies. And now I do some styling with a friend of mine, Kelly. I'm sure you know her from St. Mary's, but with some other photographers. And we just have fun and get creative and just work together with other creatives and just have fun.
That's amazing. And it seems like it's a passion of yours. You like lit up when you started talking about it.
We enjoy it. We have a lot of fun.
It's really, really neat. It's really good to see that you're doing things that you love and you're spending time with your family. So I'm really happy things are going well for you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your light and your energy and just being an inspirational person to me and hopefully our students as well. So thanks, Amber. We will definitely continue to follow your journey and see what great things that are coming of you soon.
Thank you again for having me.